You rejected me? What does that even mean?
So you go to a country thinking it's your dream home, and bam, they deny you entry right at the airport because you don't even have the minimum financial required for your visa to be complete. Don't fall into this nightmare. Make sure you continue watching so you know exactly how to have your financial affairs in order so that you can save yourself this embarrassment and the headache of being denied entry into a country. Hello and welcome back to Vivid Travels. How y'all doing out there, future expats? Welcome back to this series, The Expat's Journey. If you've been following along, of course, you've done some of the hardest work already. You've identified your why, you've organized your paperwork, and you've done your research into countries that you've been interested in. But here's the harsh reality. Showing the embassy that you have money is one thing. Making that money last and making it work abroad is entirely another. This is where most moves fail. Today, we're building your expat financial planning strategy. This is going to be your money map. This is step 4 in this 8-part series. This is the financial planning step, and it's the blueprints that will turn a temporary trip into a sustainable new life. Stay tuned. So we're going to go through this section by section. Section 1 is going to be the initial moving budget. The first step in creating your move abroad budget is separating your one-time costs versus your reoccurring monthly expenses. These initial costs are huge and they hit really fast. Visa and legal fees. You should already have these numbers from step 3, but let's just confirm. You got to make sure that you have your visa application fee. This is a mandatory government charge. Then you're going to have your visa processing fees. These are any costs for third-party services, translations, travel to the nearest consulate interview, etc. And you may also have legal fees. This is going to happen if you've hired an immigration lawyer, and you also have to factor in your retainer fee here. Travel and relocation logistics. This is a big variable. Don't just budget for the ticket price of your plane. Budget for the entire travel experience. For example, flights, not just the ticket, but extra baggage fees, premium seats for comfort, or layover accommodations if you happen to be traveling a long way. Always budget for the most expensive time of the year, just in case you actually end up leaving during that time. At least then you'll have those things covered. You need to make sure you factor in shipping costs. Are you shipping a container of furniture or just a few extra suitcases? Get early quotes from the international shippers, and this is often the biggest unexpected cost. I don't plan to ship a lot of things when I am planning to move overseas. I just plan to take whatever I can, and when I'm factoring in finding a place, I want to make sure that I can find a furnished place so I don't have to lug a bunch of stuff with me. So I actually plan on getting rid of most of my stuff when I leave. Pet relocation. If you have pets, this can cost thousands if you're trying to bring them overseas with you, and there may be restrictions around that. Make sure that you include any vet fees, flight cages, and quarantine costs if the destination country requires these things. Temporary setup costs. When you arrive, you won't move into your dream apartment immediately. At least you probably shouldn't. You're going to want to make sure that you have temporary accommodations so that you can at least see certain places in person before you make a commitment like that. Budget for 4 to 6 weeks in an Airbnb or a temporary sublet. This allows you time to conduct in-person apartment viewings. Rental deposit. Expect to pay 2 to 3 months rent plus the first month's rent up front. This is a massive chunk of change that you need to have on arrival day. So make sure you budget that appropriately. Some people opt to pay well in advance so that it's not anything that they have to think about while they're there, depending on what they're actually doing, whether it's a digital nomad, they've just saved money to live off of, or they plan on finding a job. I have heard of expats paying up to a year in advance for their place to stay. And then, of course, you may have initial setup fees. Think about things like buying local phone services, getting a bus pass, or buying basic essentials like towels or cookware or anything else that you may need immediately. Section 2, projecting long-term living expenses. This is the long-term view. We are projecting your true cost of living abroad. Use this to find the baseline amount that you're actually going to earn or withdraw every single month just to survive. Long-term living expenses obviously include housing and utilities. So whether you rent or buy, this will be your biggest expense. So use portals like Idealista or local rental sites to get an accurate average for the neighborhood that you actually plan to live in. Utilities. Make sure you actually research average costs for gas, electric, water, and reliable internet service. Note that heating costs in the winter are often shockingly high in some places. So make sure you do your research so that you can actually take these things into account. Next, you gotta look at things like your daily living expenses. Groceries, we all got to eat, right? So use your local grocery store websites to build mock shopping carts of your weekly staples so that you can kind of get a realistic estimate of what you're actually going to spend. Don't use generic cost of living calculators alone. It can vary from location to location. And of course, you have to factor in transportation. Will you rely on a monthly subway pass, or will you need to buy a car? Will you rent a scooter? Make sure that you include registration, insurance, and fuel. Healthcare and insurance. Your visa probably required you to buy insurance, but you need to actually budget for your monthly premiums. So if you have private health insurance, make sure that you budget for the monthly premium that you actually selected during the visa process. Make sure that you actually have a contingency section also where you actually budget small amounts for out-of-pocket expenses like co-pays, dentist fees, or any unexpected pharmacy runs. Things do happen. Section 3, managing the financial transition. Okay, you need to make sure that you're looking at expat banking. Moving money around the world is expensive and risky if you don't use the right tools. We need a strategy for expat banking and international money transfer. One of the important things that you need to make sure that you do is notify your home bank. Before you go, call or use your bank's app to set up a long-term travel notification. You should probably be specific and tell them that you're actually moving for a specific amount of time, not that you're visiting for 2 weeks. This prevents your cards from being frozen or locked when you buy your first grocery haul abroad. Foreign transaction fees, these can get you. Identify which credit card has 0 foreign transaction fees. If you don't have one, I actually recommend getting a card that has 0 fees and make it your primary card for the first few months. It can make life much, much easier and save you money in the long run. Opening a local account. You need a local bank account to pay rent, receive local salary, and set up utilities. You cannot survive on US cards alone. So make sure that you understand that opening an account is probably going to be a necessity. Research banks that allow pre-arrival setup, which, just to be honest, is very rare, versus banks that require a physical visit after your residency is approved. Make sure that before you go into the bank, you know what documents that they actually require. It's usually going to be your passport and either proof of residency or a utility bill. Let's talk about international money transfer services. Forget your traditional bank's wire transfer. They charge awful exchange rates, and they also charge hidden fees at times. You don't need a specialized service for international money transfer. You can use a couple of different services, Wise or Revolt. Both of these services offer mid-market exchange rates, meaning that you get the most local currency for your dollar. Budget the small transaction fee that they may charge into your transfer plan. You might want to consider setting up a transfer schedule. Decide on your strategy. Will you make one large transfer for your initial deposit and emergency fund, or will you transfer small amounts monthly? This particular decision is going to affect your overall fees. So think about that long and hard before you start transferring money. Section 4, establish your financial safety net. This is the emergency fund. It is a non-negotiable for an expat. You are building a life without your familiar support systems. So what is your goal? You must save at least 3 to 6 months worth of projected expenses and keep that liquid and accessible. Where should you keep it? Make sure that you keep your emergency fund in a separate accessible account, preferably a high yield savings account in your home country, and only transfer it when absolutely necessary. You don't want to rely on transferring it during a financial emergency when the exchange rate might be terrible. And another important backup is to have a contingency account, okay? What is the worst case scenario? Losing your job, visa rejection, factor in the cost of last minute flights home, or having a go home fund. So just in case something happens, you have this money aside outside of your emergency fund. This is your contingency plan fund, and this is your plan C. So if plan A fails, you have plan B, which is your emergency fund. Plan B fails, you have plan C, your contingency fund. Make sure this is separate from everything else, because this is going to be your absolute last funds that you're going to tap into if you absolutely have to. On a side note, I wanted to give you a little bit of advice from someone who has already gone through this process, an expat who has already moved abroad. They notified me that you have to make sure that you plan for all these hidden costs, and that it's going to be much more expensive than you probably initially thought, especially food. You need to make sure that you factor in food appropriately. And when you are planning for your expenses, you might want to actually double what you think you need. So keep that in mind when doing some of your planning. Whew. Okay, that was a lot of numbers. But this plan is the difference between a successful move and an expensive mistake. You now have a solid foundation for your expat financial planning. This is complex. So I created a freebie for you to download. It's the 5-minute expat financial planning sheet. This worksheet is absolutely free and helps you put numbers down on paper so you can actually see the reality that you're working with when it comes to financials. Next week, we're moving on to step 5, which is the logistics and paperwork for the destination country. Okay, we've already looked at the logistics and paperwork for the home country. Now we got to look at what exactly we need for your destination country. This is where we finalize packing, notifying landlords, and preparing the documents that you need immediately upon landing, like setting up utilities and registering at the town hall. Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what is the most expensive item in your initial moving budget right now. And if you happen to miss step 2 or 3, you can watch them right here and here. Until next time, safe travels.